going into my basketball. Every time I rock, man, this is how we rap and raw. Peace to my man, now we got the camera out. Every time I spit it, cross over the...
Hello everyone, this is Josh, also known as Yashu, and you're tuning into episode 33 of the TLOY Talks podcast. Today we have one of the most rising and talented artists in the city right now. You know, more so like one of the most rising and heating artists like in the underground right now, opening up for OGZ and like a lot of other people too. You know, also performed with the likes of Portion, has songs with him, as well as with Singer Breeze and much more too, and has been like in your interviews and all your other pods too. We have Scarb's on Buggz. You know, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired, but I'm good.
Nah, I know what you mean, man. I mean, we have to like make it through with whatever we have to do and all that.
Yeah.
Just for everything, you know, it's just the morning grind and all that. Not even like the morning grind, but like just the grind in general. It's just like kind of everything too, you know. So yeah.
Grind don't stop.
Nah, man. But yeah, I've been like tapping in with the music too, and like after seeing your show, you know, with Portion at Cali's event back in February, you know, I had to tap in with the music, and you know, the projects were like amazing to hear too. You actually have like a new project right now called Asylum. It's out now on all platforms, so
Yes,
we'll definitely discuss more about that, you know. But
yes, sir.
you know, I want to get more into your like story for a bit too. So like I was like watching like a lot of like the interviews and everything else too. So
Can I say one thing to you?
yeah.
I think you're gonna go farther than a lot of people because you actually did your homework. I just wanted to say that because I read. You know what I mean? I like that. I like that. I like that. You do your homework because you look what you just said. Nobody's really asked me about that. Yeah, the OGZ.
Yeah.
I like that.
Nah, I know what you mean, man. But yeah, I definitely appreciate it, and you know, much respect either way, you know. So yeah, man. But you know, getting onto this topic right now, just like you know, growing up in like Pitfield Plaza, you know, McCowan and Shepherd, you know, what's that environment like for you growing up at the time?
The plaza itself was a little scary as a child because you know the townhouses. There's a lot of dogs over there, if you catch my drift. And
Yeah, nah.
that plaza was it was fairly popular because we have a few popular stores. Like as a child, Roti Hut was the main thing, and like it created a lot of traffic, you know.
Yeah, well.
So like a lot of outsiders would be passing through the neighborhood, so we would see that. But as a child, I used to be scared to go to that plaza, just
true.
because, you know, it's for real.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, even around those times too, like in the 2000s, like late 90s, like, you know, violence was like kind of rampant at those times too. Like, I mean, especially like that whole Jane Creeper shooting, like back in like '04, like.
Yeah, year of the gun.
Yeah.
They said.
Yeah, and it kind of like led on to like 2012, and I think it started to simmer down recently too with everything going on. But I mean, aside from like the violence in the TDC, you know, not much going on, you know, like since like 2018. So it's like
It's not. It's still scary, but not as scary, I guess.
Yeah, no, most definitely. But even as a kid growing up around that time, like just like growing up in that area too, like what was like you know, like the whole like activities like, you know, just like at that time, just you know, with like playing sports or like other stuff and all that?
90s and 2000, early 2000s, it was all about basketball, dancing, and that kind of stuff. It wasn't really, you know, none of that gangster stuff really, realistically. It was more about
like ball runs and like
yeah.
Like
Everybody thought they were gonna make it to the NBA at those times. Now it's a little different, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be everything, but back those days it was like just strictly basketball, dancing, or rap, or music. Period.
Yeah.
That was it.
No, most definitely, man. And I mean, even at that time too, because like the Raptors came by, and like also, you know, Jamal Magalore, like one of the biggest like, you know, players from Toronto that actually made it to the NBA. Like it was like a crazy time back then. Either way,
You used to eat at the Roti Hut. Facts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. But like even growing up with like, you know, Portion and Singer Breeze, my bad on that. Like you guys were like kind of like in the same age group, right? Or
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, I'm just a slight bit older than Portion, but Singer's actually my brother, like through marriage. You know, my mom. I mean, his mother and my dad are married, so that's actually family.
True.
So growing up with Singer was fun. It was just cool to have a bigger brother, and with Portion now, growing up with Portion, I was really running around with his older brother.
True.
For real, like, and it would be like he was by default he's my little brother, you know, because I was running with his brother. But Portion was like always had I want to say a man, like he always carried himself mature for his age, as from younger till now, you know. He was never really like, I don't want to say goofy, but he was always wiser than his age.
No, definitely. And I've noticed that like from the music too, like with his like first two projects, like I feel like there's like a lot of maturity with that sound too, and you know, like a lot of, you know, growth and like seeing his experiences too. Like it's very interesting to see and all that. And even like life before the fame, you know, before like Buggz was like even in the picture, like what was that like for you like at that time?
Before the music and stuff?
Yeah, before the music.
I was just trying to figure it out, you know, figure out which direction I was going to take my life. You know, I came to a point in life where it was like, you know, I've been in some trouble. I've done some stuffs, and I just came to a point, like you said, like which way was I going to take my life? Was I going to continue down the path of what I see as destruction, or was I going to try to make a better way for myself and provide for the people that, you know, look up to me, respect me, and all that stuff, you know? So I just decided to like change the way I was thinking and viewing life in itself.
No, 100%, man. And you know, even at that life around too, I mean, there's like a lot of people that have like aspirations and goals on what they wanted to do. But like even at that first moment in life, like what was like your initial goal or idea that you wanted to do for like a career or job? Like whether it's like, you know, playing for the NBA or like making music or like whatever.
You're saying like at a younger age, or you're saying like when I chose to like jump into music, or you mean?
More so like initially, like when,
like growing up, I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be a basketball player, but I always had fantasies of being an artist. Like there was just like something in me. I used to always listen to music and like act out skits and stuff like that, or some of my favorite artists' music videos. I'd like mimic it in the mirror and stuff like that, you know. So I always had that fantasy of it, but I always dreamt that I would be a basketball player.
No, most definitely. Because, like, I mean, I think we even talked about this too. Like, around that time, you know, everyone wanted to be, like, in the NBA too. And, like, you know, high school, you know, like, you had to, like, actually compete to even be on those teams too. And, like, I mean, especially around the early 2000s, like, everyone wanted to be a ball man. And, like, you had to compete against, like, people from Eastern, people from Commerce, you know, people from, like,
good
all over.
players.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I wanted to ask, have you ever, like, tried out for, like, the high school ball team? Anything like that?
Yeah. I played basketball up until the age of, like, seriously, up until the age of, I want to say 15, 16-ish. And then after that, I chose a different route. But up until that point, I was locked in when it came to basketball. I really believed that I could do some damage, even though I wasn't that tall in high school and stuff.
Yeah. And like that, like that competition around that time, like kind of like grimy back then.
It wasn't as, no disrespect to the younger generation, but it was a little bit rougher, I would say. Like we were a little rougher, you know. The older these generation, like the kids coming up now and who's playing ball now, the talent is crazy. They're doing their thing, but for us, it was more about the roughness of the game and not being no punk. And you know, we would take the fouls and all that stuff, you know, like and the competition, because it wasn't so. It was like, now there's so much talent. Those times it was like, you know, you would have 3 guys from Scarborough, you'd have 4 or 5 guys from the West, stuff like that, you know. Now you have, anywhere you go right now in the city, whether it's out of town, like you're gonna have a star. Before, you knew where you were gonna go to get the star. So, you know, everybody was trying to knock out the star realistically, or be as good as the star, or get on that level.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And you know, aside from like, you know, like even with the basketball too, like like quitting at that time, did it kind of like reflect you on like getting more into your music path for a bit, like on becoming an artist? Or
when I stopped playing basketball, I wanted to be, how do I word it? I wasn't following the rules at that point. So I didn't really care. Like I lost my, what I would say, the inspiration for it. So I chose a different route, and I stuck to that route because I felt like that was the best route for me.
Nah, 100%, man. But you know, even aside from that, like what were like some artists or sounds that like you listened to like throughout your life? Like I know that you mentioned that you were like, you know, mimicking like certain like artists like from music videos and like also through like other stuff too. So like what was that?
Well, in the beginning of time, my mom used to make me listen to a lot of like old school reggae and like a lot of, I say R&B too. So in the beginning, I used to want to be like MC Hammer. And then as I got older, my mother, again, put me onto DMX, which is crazy to me. She was listening to DMX before me. Shout my mother out. But yeah, I was listening to DMX, Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne was like my top. He's like my top tier influences of life for music wise. You know, like that was who I once I found out about the Hot Boys and all that. That what became my idol, Lil Wayne, and I used to love listening to DMX and who else could I think of? Busta Rhymes, guys like that in those early stages. As I got older, obviously it changed. You know, I started to like Jay-Z at a point, Nas. I started to understand the music a little bit different. Shine, Beanie Siegel, Jadakiss, a lot of those rappers.
100%, man. And I mean, Wayne at that time too, like it's interesting that you talked about him. I know his mixtape era was like very crazy back then, you know, the Drought 1, the Drought 2, also with like Dedication 2, 3, 4, like he was like a beast out there back then, like even aside from the Carter tapes and all that, you know. So it's like it was like his mixtape game that kind of like elevated him into like the Carter 3 and all that. So like I definitely like see that influence like right there. So
yeah. He was dropping too much music at that time for him to be even be ignored.
Yeah, 100% too. And you know, even in that sense too, you know, getting into more of your career right now, what inspired you to take your career to like the next level, like in that sense?
Like I was saying a little bit earlier, I came to a point in my life where I was trying to figure out a way that I could incorporate the people that I love in my life and like people that look up to me and stuff like that. How could I incorporate them into my life fully? Like where we could make a movement out of it, you know? And music was the only thing I felt like we could do together. So I felt like even if I'm the artist, the producer, the engineer, whatever the case may be, my brother, my cousin, my mother could be the cameraman or camera woman. You know, like I just felt like everybody listens to music, loves music. And I felt like, you know, that was one way that I could keep all the people that I love together and just do something as a whole, you know?
Yeah. So it's like more so like building like the family together and all that too. Like
yeah.
Just kind of like elevating them to show them that, hey, you know, there's a career like outside of like what we see right now. You know, we could actually like make it off like with this music, like this music stuff and all that for a bit too. So I definitely understand what you mean, man.
Yeah. It was. And the truth is, I've said it before, is I was really considering mainly like my core brothers, you know? Like, you know, my man, them, whatever word you want to choose. Like those guys, it was my core focus. Like what could I start that keeps us all together and united and still moving together? Because everybody has a life outside. Some people have jobs, some people own business, like, you know, whatever, work for somebody. Everybody lives their own type of life. But what could we do that brings us all together? And music was the only thing that I could think of.
100%, man. And you know, I think you started off like before too, like in a dance group for a bit, and like, you know, it's interesting too, like when people like incorporate like dance through music in that sense too. So like were there like ways that you incorporated like dance like within the music in that sense too? Like
it helps me catch a rhythm, you know, like it helps me catch certain rhythms in the booth. You know, only because I used to dance, so I could kind of see how I would perform the song or see how I would act it out in a video too as well. So, and when I shoot videos, I try to show them I got rhythm. You know, I got a little bounce. You know, I don't want to be a stiff mannequin. You know, I haven't incorporated my dancing skills. Pause. You know, pause. You know, fully, but. Yeah, in due time, right? I'll let them see that You know, I still got some movement left in me.
Yeah, no, most definitely. You know, just speaking of like dance right now too. I mean, like even your era back then, like late '80s, early '90s, like 2000s, like jams were like a thing back then. Like you know, you couldn't really go out in the city unless like you see like a jam like pop by and all that. So like, what were like jams like back then?
Way better than you know what? Let me not do that. They were fun. They were really fun. Everybody was dancing. No, there was no mannequins and statues. Everybody was dancing, and that was the best. You know, it was about your moves and how much girls you could bubble at those times.
And you know, more so like on the select playing like proper music and all that too, because I mean dancehall back then, like it was kind of crazy because I know like they were playing 2000s dancehall, some like 50 Cent, some Lloyd Banks, and some all that type of stuff too. So now it's like, you know, when you go to a jam, they're playing like top 40 type ish and like Alkaline on like repeat.
Yeah. It's not the same, brother. It's honestly not the same. No disrespect, but it's not the same, man. I don't know what they lost. I don't know. Maybe they lost just the essence of it. I don't know, but it's not the same. They're not.
Yeah.
And it's just really oversaturated now too, right? You know, they're not really playing for the crowd these days.
It's like more so for a check. Like even the nightlife too, you know, like even like going to a nightclub, you know, it was like tougher back then. And now it's like, you know, it's a little bit more lenient here and there, like depending on the situation. But
Yeah. Like going out now and it's just different times, you know. I understand, you know, you gotta adapt, but it's just completely different times, my brother. They're not. People don't go to the parties these days to dance and have fun, and people go to the parties to watch face, you know, and see who's got it and talk about, you know, they're more watching face than enjoying the vibe of the party.
100%, man. And you know, even to speak more on music right now too, because we were talking about just like, you know, top 40 music, you know, mainstream music for a bit too. So like, what are your thoughts on like the current like mainstream music scene right now? Do you feel there's like a lot of like uniqueness today, or is it like very like recyclable right now?
My honest opinion, there's a balance. I would say there's a balance. There's a little bit of a balance, you know. There's a lot of uniqueness going on out there, but then there's a lot of the same old stuff that we're hearing. That's, you know, and I guess that's music, right? I guess, but there's I guess there's an enough uniqueness to keep it going.
Yeah.
Right? Because music keeps evolving, right? So there's enough uniqueness to keep it going, but there's a lot of, like you said, top 40?
I mean, like when we talk about like top 40 rap, like I think the most like popping artists right now, like if we could make it a bug, it's like what? Dirk, Youngboy, Lil Baby, like ESTG, Drake, Ice Spice for the females, Koi, Lotto, all that type of stuff too. And then,
typical stuff. You know, they're playing the guys, I mean the number ones, right? Little Babies and all that stuff. You're right. They are playing a lot of the number ones and skipping out on a lot of the upcoming and, you know, like you said, some of the unique artists that actually have a different sound that could create to the evolvement of music.
No, 100%. And no, I definitely agree too. And I think what I could say right now is like, it's like what the mainstream wants right now, you know, the labels and all that. Like, hey, you know, we could push the sound for a bit too, but you know, it's not going to be like something that, you know, we're going to cater to. Like, we're going to leave our upcoming artists like on the side too, unless they can create a hit. And like, I think that's like the problem like with the industry too nowadays, because like they always want like a hit either through TikTok or if you could like, you know, make it on your own too to make it catchy. And
They're waiting for that. They're waiting for you to make that hit. They're waiting for you to make something, like you said, something catchy enough so they could bandwagon it and then profit off of it.
True. Nah, but as far as like right now, like what are you playing like on like your playlist and all that, you know, for a bit?
What am I playing?
Yeah.
Truthfully, I really listen to me so much, but after my last project, or just before I dropped Asylum, the EP, I was training myself to listen to a lot of other artists, and that goes from Toronto, because I listen to a lot of Toronto artists. Shout out my city, shout out Canada. That's who I really listen to a lot, only because that's who I relate to the most. That's me personally, right? I'm not saying outside music I can't relate to it and I don't feel it and whatever, but I'm from here, so whatever artist is spitting or rapping or singing or whatever they're doing, I feel like I relate to them more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And, getting on to part two of our conversation right now, recently you dropped your project Asylum. So, like, what was, like, that whole creative process and inspiration like for that project?
I originally wanted to drop an album, but at that time, I didn't understand the work that needs to be put in to make an album, like an actual album. So I told everybody who I work with, I'm like, okay, listen, we're going to do an EP instead. And I'm in that mode. So my process is just not necessarily how I'm feeling, but like, if you listen to it, the EP itself, that's where I'm at right now, like mentally in my head, So that's my part of my creative process. I try to be as transparent as I can and try to tap into Buggz as much as I can for the project that I'm working on. And yeah, the title came after, like, a couple of songs were made because I was just seeing the vibe,
Yeah.
seeing the vibe where we were going with it. But my creative process is really just really telling myself, we got to put out a project. So I look at it like as if I was signed to a label. I need to have a deadline. So what am I going to do in that time frame? So I kind of set it up in that format.
100%. And I've noticed, like, like the whole, like, sound too, more, it's like kind of like more polished in the sense of, like, with the music video, with like the production, the beats, the engineering, it's like, very like interesting too, and like I think very refreshing because you don't really get to see it like on like a lot of like other projects nowadays too. And like I was like listening to some of your old stuff too, like Never Too Late and like Far From Perfect, where it's like a unique balance between like R&B and rap and some songs. Like you were singing like on some of the tracks, and then like also like rapping for a bit too. So just like to get that whole like process and inspiration going. So what was that like
for the old tapes, or like the old tapes? The old tapes were, I want to call them experimenting. I was, when I started, I just went went full force, produce as much music as I can and just test out the waters. Like, can I sing? Can I rap? Can I sing and rap? Can I just rap? Can I be this? And I was trying to figure out, mainly my sound, so to speak. I was trying to figure out how I'm gonna rope in the people, and those projects was me figuring out myself, just figuring out my capabilities and if I'm that versatile, and will they mess with me if I sing and rap? Will they mess with me if I sound like, I was just trying to figure out what it was. And those were my those tapes were for me to reflect on and just study the responses that I was getting, and the process that went into those was all just freestyle and emotional, whatever the emotions, I should say, not emotional, but just emotions, just in the moment of everything. So that was the creative process behind those first few tapes. And also with those tapes it wasn't as thought out. Those tapes were more, I had a bunch of songs and I said, you know what? These 4 or 5 songs could go together. And then I put them together. It wasn't like a thought out thing. Asylum was fully thought out.
100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, even with the Asylum album cover too, like it's actually like very interesting too, because you were a kid, carrying like a water gun and all that, like, so kind of like matches like the whole like childhood like innocence side back then, to seeing like what you could like become too with the vibe, like a force to be like reckoned with, like sound too. So I do definitely see like the interest right there and all that, so yeah, man.
I'm a student to the game, right? So I'm always learning, and I'm always just studying. So
Yeah.
Question for you. What do you, when you hear Asylum and you see that picture, what is your first thing that comes to your head?
Because when I'm thinking about that kid with the water gun too, it's like, someone who grew up in an environment where they see other people like encapsulated with getting into the whole like street culture and all that, seeing like all like, the paraphernalia and all that, and the media seeing like a lot of content too, because we could say that at that time too in the hood, Menace to Society, Dead Presidents, like people were watching that like in the hood, and like kids were like tapping in. They see all those guys. You see like Lorenz Tate, with the white mask, and like, the heist scenes, and like, Boys in the Hood too, Doughboy and like Craig, like Doughboy and like the other guy like fighting and all that, it's a crazy vibe too. So it's kind of like, being influenced on like what you see, but then when you like listen to each track here and here, it's like, this is like the experience that we're living, this is what we're growing up, this is like what we can relate to, and we're just telling our stories to all these other people too, on why we live this way, and like, if on how, and even like on how like music is like saving us to kind of getting us into like a better lifestyle, like a better like environment in that sense too. Like we don't want to like
you might have given the best explanation of my tape. I might not even have been able to explain it that way. Thank you.
No
I'll shout you out for that. That's kind of, make sure you save this and that specific part of this. Just make sure you just send that to me so I remember, because that is going to be what I'm going to tell people in my next interview. This is why I did this, because of this. But that's basically what it is. I'm just trying to paint a story for you. I'm just trying to paint a picture.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like, even with the reels and all that too, like I'll definitely make a reel too in that sense. So, Portion citing to Warner Music, dropping like a couple projects from there at the height of his career too, like 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
Like what was like noticing that experience and hearing that news? Like, have you ever felt that with him signing to like a major record label while like you're independent, like in that sense too, did it motivate you in any way, shape or form to keep going?
It did, but it's still pressure, because you got to remember, that's my brother. So now it's like, oh shoot, you signed? I got to step my game up a lot now. So it's still pressure, but it's like pressure that leads into motivation. Like him signing made me know, okay, despite what he's got going on, because he's my brother and I'm always going to support him in what he's got going on, I really have to step my game up now, because anytime I stand beside him, like you said, he's going to have a label, somebody looking at him. So I got to be on my A game, and I got to support him in the best way that I can. As brothers, as somebody that I truthfully have nothing but the most love for, I have to be on my tip-top shape. Yeah, I got to be on point. I got to make sure I get better. I got to make sure I'm in the studio more now, just because he got signed. It's not because his label or anybody from his label is even going to mess with me. It's not that. It's just because I'm supporting him. I know the support that he's going to need to make him look the best version of himself as well too, right? So I got his back like that.
Yeah, man. And I see it like for the shows too, with Fugeezy, with Cali, him opening up for Strict Soon. Like I just like saw the post right there on IG.
Shout that out too. Yeah. That's good.
Nah, 100%, man. And I think right now, this is gonna be your year, because you're headlining like with a lot of other people too, with Young Pro, with other artists too. Like you were doing some stuff with Toronto Rap Stars. So like definitely seeing your consistency, like being at these shows and being at these events, like I feel like it's gonna fuel it for something to be even way more bigger than like what it should be, So
God willing, inshallah, my brother. I pray daily about it. I look at it like, right now I'm just putting in that work. So they say if you put in your 10,000 hours, you'll be all right.
Nah, 100%, man. I think we already asked this question, like, just like even when we were discussing like other stuff too. So I'm going to move to the next question too. So, 2023, like even like with now versus like before, there's like more of an influx on, people like disrespecting the ops and like dissing the ops too. Dissing dead ops, all that type of stuff too, smoking on this, smoking on that. I think the picture. So even in this culture right now, how do you even feel about that whole like dissing on the dead or smoking on the dead stuff going on like right now in music?
Initially, I was weirded out by it. I didn't understand the whole concept by it. But then because I'm I try not to be judgmental and try to adapt to what's going on. Remember, this is not a guy that was born in early 80s that started this and smoking on anybody. It's a younger generation that's on the come up, on the rise, doing their thing, and they started a trend. So for me now, as being who I am, I'm saying, you know what? I don't want to judge these guys and just try to understand where they're coming from. As much as I don't agree with it, I understand it. I don't agree with it. I feel like they could say better things, use better things, and blah blah blah. But I understand it to an extent. I understand because I'm that type of person. You know, I understand where they're coming from. You know, they're tired, and they just want to be the most disrespectful. Yeah. And I get it in a sense of being an angry person. So I get it. No. You know, I'm not saying I wish they wouldn't do it, only because I know that they have mothers, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunties, uncles, family members too, right? I wish they didn't, but like I said, my brothers, I wish you would stop, but I'm one person to say I understand you guys to an extent. I understand you guys to an extent why you guys doing what you're doing.
100%. And I guess like there's no sort of like end to the situation unless...
No, it's gonna die soon. Trust me, brother. They're gonna there's gonna be a new generation coming in, and they're gonna change it up, you know. And the ones that started it, they're gonna grow up. You know, they're gonna understand the difference and the levels to life and this how stuff just changes. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm not judging them. I understand they're in a zone right now. So like they're in survival mode, and this is what they feel like they got to do. Yeah. So I get that, being a person that was in that zone, in survival mode, and doing what I got to do. Yeah. So I feel like they'll grow up, man. They'll grow up. They'll grow up, and they'll change. They'll help change the culture and change the narrative eventually. One day, God. I try to stay positive too, as you could tell. But you know, if they don't, they don't. It is what it is. People like you and I just have to adapt and adjust, and you know, know right from wrong type stuff.
No, most definitely, man. And, you know, getting onto this, like, other topic right now, I don't know if it might be true or not, but, like, in one of your freestyles, you mentioned about, like, being a father and going hard in your career for your kids. I don't know if that's, like, true or not, like, if you have kids or anything like that.
Most of my stuff is facts. Most of my music is facts.
All right.
Most of it, 99.9. If I said something like, I drank a Fanta or Fiji water instead of a Pure Life water, that might be the only cap.
True.
But like, yeah, I have 3 kids. That's facts. I have 3 kids that I take care of, and I love them dearly, and that's my reason for getting up. Other than my mom and, you know, the people that I love, you know, my team that's here with me, supporting me, and other than all of that stuff, my kids is like my top tier main focus, because I know what it's like being a kid, and I know what it's like. I just want to leave some stuff behind for them, and, you know, provide for them the best way that I can, and guide them the best way that I can, not control them or none of that, you know. And they're my kids, hearing my kids sing my songs, you know, tell me, Daddy, I'm proud of you. They want to come to my shows. My daughter been on stage with me. You know, my son was, you know, rapping my lyrics, and I play my son an instrumental, and he'd be like, yo, I ask him, like, is this fire or not? And he'd be like, yeah, this was all right. And, you know, sometimes my kids are the first people to hear my new songs. And that just warms my heart, you know, just to know, like, all right, if they like it, because they're the young generation coming up. So if if they can like it, and I'm on to something, right? And they motivate me, and they push me to be a better person and all that fun stuff. So my main focus is my kids and my money.
No, 100%. Facts. And, you know, being a parent, like in the music industry too, what are some things that, like, people like outside that realm, you know, people who aren't like parents, or people who are like deadbeat parents, you know, want to understand about, you know, managing like a full-time music career, like, while being a parent in that sense?
Time. It's just time. It's managing your time. You know, as much as, like, right now, like, I could have been on a FaceTime with my son. Mind you, I FaceTime my son, or he FaceTime me, maybe I want to say a half an hour, 45 minutes before this call. I mean, before the interview, you know? So, like, it's like stuff like that, you know? And I told him, yo, wish me good luck, bro. Yeah, wish me some good luck, bro. You know, so those are things that keep you going, motivated, you know, but I could have been here 5 minutes earlier or 10 minutes earlier, but I had to take that phone call from my son and stop what I was doing to give him my undivided attention and blase, you know. So, you know, people don't understand that it comes with a lot, man, you know, being a parent, making music. Sometimes, you know, I want to say it's the craziest of craziest, but then I got to think about them because they listen and they see me, you know, and it's money too, you know. I got to be buying them stuff and then still paying for a music video, you know, and pay for studio time and all that fun stuff. So it's hard, man. It's hard, but they're the reasons. They're one of the reasons, one of the main reasons, but they're one of the reasons that I get up and keep going, you know. And at least I could leave something behind for them, you know. It's like my imprint. So God forbid, you know, I was to go anytime soon or whatnot. My daughter, my son, my 2 daughters or my son could like type on YouTube and say Buggz so and so and such and then watch me, you know. And God willing, I know it'll break their heart a little bit, you know, if I wasn't here, but at the same time I know it will still motivate them. And I know it motivates them now while I'm alive and kicking. So that's the fun stuff about it, you know. That's the perks, I should say, not fun, but the perks.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Like, I mean, they need a father in their life too, and like you know, you being in their lives, it's amazing to see too, because you know, not a lot of people can step up to be like an amazing parent or even be like a dad in the household. But like once you like have that like strength and like good God willing in you to even be with those kids, you know, it's the best way possible. You know, like no one can say anything, you know, so.
I mean, they can, but we ain't listening.
Nah, most
they
definitely.
They can say what they want, but we ain't listening.
True, most definitely. And you know, right now in Toronto, gentrification's like mad crazy right now. Like Scarborough, like it has like that effect too. Like, you know, North York, Jane and Finch, like it's having that effect too. It's everywhere nowadays too. So, what are your thoughts on like gentrification in Toronto right now?
What do you mean? Say that word again.
Gentrification. So it's like so like, you know, like an old area that gets torn down, like and then they put like, you know, new establishments or new buildings to make it, you know, to move the poor away and then put in the rich class and all that. So
I just learned something today.
so like
say that word again.
Gentrification. So
sick.
I could
I'm
give
gonna
one
use that
example.
in a rap.
Like Regent Park, you know, back then.
Yeah, now
very
they're condos.
Yeah.
So I get what you mean. So you're saying like, how do I feel about them tearing down metro housings to build up their condos and all that fun stuff, basically?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to give your thoughts on that.
And trying to move my people out, because I feel like anybody in the ghetto is my people. But I don't like it because I don't feel like they're providing for the people that they're trying to move out. You know what I mean? I feel like they're putting people in a lot of sticky situations. You know what I mean? It's like, imagine somebody telling you, hey, by the way, we're building a condo here. Hey, you gotta go. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, now it's like, I don't feel like they're trying to break the cycle. I feel like they're trying to create more poverty, more destruction, more, you know, messing up the culture, you know, metro housing. And I really just feel like they're trying to add to the poverty instead of trying to take it away, personally.
100%. I mean, they're moving these people to like Brampton or to other areas too. It's not really solving the problem too, in terms of like everything going on. It's just kind of creating more of a bad habit. Like,
how do you move somebody from Regent Park to Brampton? Think about what I'm saying. Like, you move them to Brampton now. I just seen something on I don't know what, I was on the news that Brampton has the highest insurance. Like, getting insurance in Brampton is the craziest. So now imagine you move a guy that's from Toronto that was just paying $100 on his insurance. Now you move him to Brampton now. Maybe you might put him in metro housing or, you know, some type of, what's another word? Not metro housing. There's another word for metro housing.
Like
subsidized.
Yeah, subsidized housing.
Yeah, all of that stuff. Like, you move a guy out there now and you tell him, hey, by the way, buddy, you got to pay $300 because you live in Brampton for insurance now. But sorry. No. Like, you know what I mean? You're not trying to break the cycle. You're not trying, like you said, you're not trying to create opportunities for people. You're kind of putting them in a worse predicament or a worse situation, and then having them to result in whatever they choose to result in, right?
No, most definitely, man. We just have some of these few topics for bit two. But how do you feel about social media nowadays?
I don't like so much social media at all. I don't like the image that it portrays. I don't like the fakeness behind it. I just don't like social media. I mean, I understand there's so much you could do with social media, but how about this? I like the positive when it comes to social media, but the negativity that comes with it is annoying as ever. Like people are too fake on it for me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man. I mean, even like people like doing like music videos too and all that. Like the average person, like they'll do a music video, like they'll wear all these chains, like all this other type of stuff too, knowing 100% it's like very like rented and all that from the the jeweler, from the car dealership. Everything's man.
Whatever the case may be, but they're not. And then again, they go on there, and they're more looking for the fame and the repetition and all that. I mean, not repetition, reputation, and then. It's like they're not even spreading awareness to what's really going on. So it's just like you're just destroying your own people. But that would be for a whole nother conversation, right?
Nah, 100%, man. And in terms of like mental health, like in that sense too, like how do you deal with your mental health as a person in your position, like a rising underground artist, like in the city of Toronto, like with everything going on in your life with music, doing shows and everything else too, do you feel like at times it could be like overwhelming?
My mental health, you're saying?
Yeah, so like more so.
How do I deal with it? I pray a lot. I meditate. I focus on my breathing. Stuff like that. I try not to live in my fear, my anxieties and all that stuff. I try not to live in my insecurities. And I try to walk with love in my heart and just keep the faith to the best of my abilities, and trust in the Most High. That's how I deal with my mental health, me personally.
Most definitely, man. And with regrets, like you have like no regrets, or do you have like any regrets in that sense?
The truth is, I try not to live with regrets, but I do have some. I try not to live with regrets. That's what I was taught, not to live with any regrets. But the truth is, there's certain things in life I wish I didn't do, wish I didn't say, etc., etc.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
Most definitely. And to close it off for a bit too, what's your like next for you? Like in terms of, what's next for you this year in terms of like other stuff going on, like with shows? Like I know you released Asylum, so you're doing like a lot of promo on that.
Promo. I should be dropping some freestyles coming up, and couple shows coming up, but I ain't gonna speak on them. Y'all be seeing me again on stage live. But truth be told is, I like to end off any interview is just letting everybody know, any camera that's listening to me, anybody that's listening to me, I'm not going anywhere, and expect a whole lot of pressure. I'm at your neck with it. I ain't stopping for nothing. You gotta take me out yourself to stop me. That's a fact. I'm doing this for my brothers in the sky. I'm doing this for my brothers in the cells. I'm doing this for my brothers that living and supporting me and walking with me. I'm doing this for my kids, my family, my mother, all of that, my people, the people that I love, all of that fun stuff. And I will not stop. You got to take me out to stop me. That's the only way. And I'm only getting better. Best believe that.
True.
Facts.
All right, man. Buggz, thank you for coming by. And like they could tap in on social media at buggz.free, right?
Yeah, buggz.3 on Instagram. I ain't giving you my Snapchat because I don't trust y'all. And the EP's out now, Asylum. Please, Toronto, go listen. Don't be weird. Go listen. I'm telling you, it's good music. Shout out my brother Portion. Shout out my brother Singer. Shout out my brothers, all my brothers. I could name a whole list of people, and all I'm gonna say is RP the Fallen. One of my best friends passed away, RP Welly, and we'll leave that at that. And nothing but love. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. No,
and thank you thank you. How about this? Can I say it again on camera live one more time?
Yeah.
He actually does his research. That's refreshing to me. No homo, but that's very refreshing because he did his research. He tapped in. He asked me some respectful questions, and he actually made me know that he's like, he went and did his homework, and he's seen the progress and the journey. So I want to shout you out and thank you for having me on your show, my brother.
Yeah, man.
Love and none but
bro.
love.
I really appreciate it. Much respect, love, and everything else too. Like regardless,
Yeah.
I know what you mean, man. And Buggz, thank you for coming by, man. This is like episode 33 of TLOY Talks. You're gonna see it on any other platform: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts and all that. Always give that review like on Apple Podcasts. That 5-star, that 4-star, like whatever star you want to give. But yeah, man.
5 stars only. Show him some love and respect, man. He doing his thing.
Yeah, man. Now, regardless, thank you, man. And this is Josh, also known as Yashu, with the rising legendary artist Buggz in the building on TLOY Talks.
Ooh, legendary.
Signing off.
Legendary.
Yerd.
Love, brother. Appreciate
Yeah, man.
you, man.
Regardless,
Thank you,
bro.
man.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah, man.